heading up to this protest. So this poor bugger's he was kind of stuck. He couldn't get up the road because cops are blocking off the whole of Pitt Street now for this protest for the unions. Oh, they've got a few numbers up there. I'm getting up closer now. So this is corner of Pitt, and it's going to cause fucking gridlock, but anyway. The corner, it's 5:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday. You know, there's building works going on, there's all sorts going on. But there's a few, you know, there's a few there. I wasn't going to come because of the weather, but it's actually put on by the Tertiary Education Union, T, whatever they call themselves, in combination with other unions against, about sanctions on Israel, or something like that. I don't know, I had a bit of a quick squeeze at it before I came up, but that was it. So yeah, there's other shit going on, of course, in town. It's the middle of Pitt Street, so it's in between Pitt and what do you call the next one, Bathurst maybe? Going up Pitt, not as far as Pitt Street Mall, but you know, a couple of blocks down from it. So this building here is the Defense Department. So that's the Defense Department building. There's good numbers here. It's been absolutely fun. It's been pissing down all day. So I was kind of really not gonna, I was pretty much not gonna come. It's not far of a walk for me, so I can't be too bloody lazy. What the fuck that guy's carrying on about? So they're starting right now, so I'm pretty much right on time. Oh, here we go. He's one of the union, your normal union kind of guys. You'll see it everything. Let's get around and have a look. So it's Stop Arming Israel Sanctions Now. You can read that backwards. So this is the Department of Defense. So you're going to see this lady in there keeping guard. There's a couple of cops here keeping guard. But let's get in there. We're listening to his voice. It's that got a few cops here, maybe a few, and then there's a reasonable number of people in the end. Let's get in there and have a little look and see what they have to say.
Governments of the world are saying we will not load any arms destined to Israel. I've been down to our ports, to our members, as a proud wharfie myself, and has said, we identify these containers that are going to go to Israel. Do not load it. And I know Australian wharfies will not load those boxes. I'm here with my comrades here. Our union has a proud history of standing up against bad governments and standing for justice, standing against apartheid like South Africa. Dockers of the world have been doing this throughout the generations. And we see port after port after port around the world. Our comrades in Genoa, what a great bunch of comrades. They will not load arms. Our comrades in Liverpool just said to the port owner, don't bring any arms to Liverpool, it won't get loaded. Our comrades in Marseille, and it goes on around the world. And when it comes our turn, these boxes, if they're coming through here to Sydney, I say to every ship owner, you're going to have a problem, because Sydney wharfies, in fact wharfies across the country, will not load those boxes. We call on the Albanese government. I've got to say, you must feel very fortunate that the police have turned out in such great numbers. Hey, how about this? Protect and serve, eh? What do we think about that? Imagine if you're a First Nations person. I want to recognise the traditional owners of the land that we meet here. Pay our respects. This land always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I want to acknowledge each and every one of you, because taking this stand makes a difference. Makes a difference. And we're mobilising across the world because governments have been complicit, like the governments in this country, have been complicit when it comes to Gaza, when it comes to the West Bank, and the Palestinian people. And the people of the world are coming together, mobilising, as we did against South African apartheid. Israel is a pariah state. Let me say that again. Israel is a pariah state. We're here because we stand for humanity. We're here now because we're saying enough's enough. And we will break bad laws to defend the Palestinian people. We continue to mobilise. Right after this, I have a Zoom meeting with the International Dockers Council from all corners of the world to deal with how we come together to further organise to support the Palestinian people in Gaza. Let's not forget that these governments are complicit, and any company that makes arms that are assembled either here or in any other country destined for Israel are war criminals. Bisalloy! Bisalloy! Shame! Shame! Shame on Malcolm Turnbull, one of the owners of Bisalloy. Shame! I'm going to wrap it up. We will continue to fight. We'll continue to get out on the streets. I say to the police, join with the communities. Stay away from the reactionary nature of the Premier here, Chris Minns, and governments that really want you to, pull out the batons and bash, protesters. Don't do it. We've seen that happen down at Bisalloy with a young woman. Shame. Shame on the police for doing that. Stand with the community. We're here and we will not stop until justice, until genocide stopped, until famine is stopped, until river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you, comrades.
Arming Israel! Stop arming Israel!
Stop arming Israel!
Thank you so much, Paul. Brother Paul's been such a comrade to us as First Nations people and the MUA and everybody else who's here, so thank you again for coming. So we as Jumbunna staff for Palestine, Jumbunna Research Staff Collective for Palestine, have put together on our own terms this very statement from UTS. Where at? If you know us, comrade, Paddy, yeah. Thank you, Paddy. So bear with me. Majority of us here are also First Nations, so this statement is also coming in solidarity between First Nations and non-First Nations people. We believe that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander liberation is intrinsically linked to the liberation of Palestinians and other Indigenous peoples across the globe. We see the parallels from Terra Nullius to the Nakba to Invasion Day to forced relocation and cultural genocide. How can Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities ever be free when the Australian government commits themselves and our stolen lands and resources to this genocide of Palestinians? We demand that the federal government sanction Israel now and that UTS commit to the academic boycott of Israel now. In the course of the work that we as staff members undertake at Jumbunna Research, we affirm the goals of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UNDRIP, and we are guided by the following core values that compel us to speak today. They are a commitment to First Nations sovereignty, self-determination and community empowerment, a commitment to anti-racism and opposition to apartheid, respect for international law, and a commitment to collaboration and solidarity with Indigenous peoples internationally. Why do we support Palestine and the people of Gaza? Palestinian Foreign Minister speaking at a hearing of the ICJ on the 19th of February 2024 stated, 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza, half of them children, are besieged and bombed, killed and maimed, starved and displaced. More than 3.5 million Palestinians in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, are subject to colonization of their territory and the racist violence that enables it. Does that sound familiar? 1.7 million Palestinians in Israel are treated second-class citizens and unwelcomed intruders on their own lands. 7 million Palestinian refugees continue to be denied their right to return to their lands and homes. The Palestinians have endured colonialism and apartheid, just like us First Nations people. At the same ICJ hearing, South Africa spoke of the decades of apartheid settler colonialism, and many other countries presenting to the ICJ spoke of Israel colonization, illegal occupation, and Palestinian land and annexation. We stand for Indigenous liberation, self-determination and sovereignty, and we stand against genocide and apartheid. We recognise that genocide has been a tool of the settler colonial states globally. We oppose racism in all its manifestations, and we oppose apartheid regimes which systemically deny Indigenous people's civil and land rights. There's been an ongoing, systemic undermining of Palestinian sovereignty, just like here, and in the occupied territories, Palestinian self-government is entirely in the hands of colonial power. This is centuries of genocidal acts. This is a part of the pattern of racial discrimination that violates that international law. We fight for the rights of Indigenous children to grow up with their families, to live happy and healthy lives, free from violence and repressive state intervention. That same intervention that is in the Northern Territory is occurring against these children, and they're being slaughtered for it. They need access to their most basic developmental needs. There have been multiple military actions in Gaza since 2007. A 16-year-old child in Gaza will have witnessed 6 wars in their lifetimes. A 16-year-old child in Gaza was 6 wars, and we are appalled by that. Israel is unrestrained, and they are a violent state, resulting in the mass killing and maiming of the children of Gaza. At the end of July 2025, the Palestinian Ministry of Health reported over 60,000 deaths since October 2023. Over half of which has been women and children. MOH and UNICEF reports 18,500 children killed and more than 37,000 injured. Thousands of children in Gaza are unaccompanied or separated from their families. This is a stolen generation. Palestinian food and water security has been a long-running issue since the illegal blockade imposed on Gaza in 2007. Which has constituted the fastest decline in a population's nutrition status ever recorded. The World Bank estimates that at least 96,000% of Gaza's agricultural infrastructure has been damaged or destroyed. Across to land is a fundamental right for Indigenous peoples. Access to land is a fundamental right of Indigenous peoples. There is a formal UN declaration now in place. Gaza is in the throes of a famine made by Israel. This point is particularly pertinent now for us. We fight for academic freedom and we stand against scholasticide. We mourn the systematic killing of Palestinian intellectuals and teachers and of the destruction of schools and universities. We particularly note that universities have been targeted for destruction and hundreds of academics have been killed, many of whom died in targeted killings. That's people like us, including internationally recognized scholars, deans, and presidents. Not only has the physical infrastructure of higher education been systemically destroyed in Gaza, but so has its intellectual infrastructure in what has been described as an act of long-term de-development. Israel has also systemically damaged its businesses, schools, places of worship, cemeteries, cultural and archaeological sites, municipal court buildings, and engaged in ongoing attacks of the medical and healthcare systems. For those reasons, we as Jumbunna Research Staff for Palestine support the staff, students and alumni here today and of UTS who are calling for a complete end to all of our relationships between UTS and entities connected with Israel. This includes ending our relationships with Israeli academia, with entities involved with the field of so-called defense, companies linked with Israel production and manufacturing, as well as all other connections with Israel. We are very heartened to have the support of the NTEU in calling for an academic boycott of Israel and an end to weapons research. Took a lot to say that today. We continue to demand the Australian government support an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. We call on the Australian government to demand the state of Israel and its illegal occupation of Palestine, including the construction and continued existence of illegal settlements on Indigenous lands. We demand the Australian government place comprehensive sanctions on Israel and immediately cease all military trade and all other military assistance or cooperation with Israel. And we demand the Australian government immediately restore aid to humanitarian agencies operating in Gaza, including the UNRWA. From the river to the sea, from Gadigal to Gaza, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinian. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinian. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinian. Thank you so much for coming out, everyone. My name is Hosai Gul. I'm part of UTS staff for Palestine, and for the last year and a half, we know that the union solidarity and the fire in the belly of the collective at UTS has started with solidarity with those who are standing up for Palestine. And we're super proud to have our union back us with all the claims we've made for justice for those in Gaza and Palestine. So super proud to be here. We cannot underscore the impact unions have in supporting the staff they represent and standing up for justice globally. So today on Gadigal land, we stand here together because our job cuts, the injustice on Gadigal land and what's happening in Palestine is interconnected through colonial capitalism that is absolutely destroying this planet and everything on it. Our next speaker, proud to introduce David Shoebridge, Federal Senator for the Greens. Please welcome David.
Thanks very much. And I want to start by acknowledging this is Gadigal land we're all gathered on today. This bit of Pitt Street, all the way to Bondi Beach, it's Gadigal land and it's free and open to everybody, isn't it? And I want to acknowledge that connection with First Nations justice here in this country, fighting against invasion, fighting for self-determination, fighting against the kind of oppression that was mentioned not just in the NT, but in jails and police cells across this country as well. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Well, I've got to tell you, the last 48 hours, we have seen the rogue state of Israel engage in repeated obscene breaches of international law. There is a flotilla of people, good people from around the world who are trying to break the siege of Gaza, to bring food and medicine to the people of Gaza who have been deliberately starved by the state of Israel. And Israel, again, like it has done time and time again on peaceful flotillas, has attacked it now twice in the last 48 hours, in gross breach of international law. And then, in the last 24 hours, to launch a missile strike on a neutral third country that is meant to be an ally of the United States, with a missile attack on Qatar to try and assassinate people who were there seeking to negotiate an end to the war and the release of hostages. An illegal, unlawful assassination attempt in a neutral third country. And then, in the same 48 hours, they have expanded their ethnic cleansing of Gaza City, seeking to move hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to outside of Gaza City, where there is no shelter, no housing, no food, no security. In 48 hours, an attack on a peaceful flotilla in breach of international law. An assassination attempt in a neutral third country in breach of international law, and ethnic cleansing in breach of international law. That's the definition of a rogue state. And what did our government do? What did our government do? What did Penny Wong, the Foreign Minister, do? What did the Prime Minister do? They issued another empty statement of condemnation. Well, we say that is a shameful act of complicity in a genocide. It is failing to stand up for international law, and it's greenlighting the lawlessness of the State of Israel. And what we say with one voice is end the two-way arms trade, the whole lot of it. End the two-way arms trade. Sanction the Netanyahu government, the extremist members of that cabinet who have directed time after time gross breaches of international law and the mass starvation of Gaza. Sanction every single member of the Netanyahu cabinet, and do it today. And how is it that we continue to export materials into the Israeli war industry? We export aluminium, critical components into their war industry. We should be applying the same sanctions we put on Russia to Israel. Russia for its illegal war in Ukraine, its breach of international law. We know what those sanctions look like, and if they're applied to Israel, we would have already ended the entire two-way arms trade. We would have already sanctioned the senior leaders. But it seems that our government, being led by the nose by the Trump administration, is refusing to stand up for Australian values, for international law, for justice and decency, and to stop killing kids. Well, we say to Penny Wong, you bring shame on our country when you fail to act. You bring shame on our country when you continue to export armoured steel that's been used in Israeli tanks and in illegal settler attacks in the West Bank. You bring shame to Australia when you fail to stop the F-35 trade and you continue to export fighter parts to Israel so they can bomb kids in Gaza, bomb negotiators in Doha, and make illegal strikes on their neighbours. They bring shame to us by not acting. They don't speak for us. So I want to thank every union for being out here today. I want to thank the Teachers for Palestine, the NTEU, the MUA, the construction unions, the nurses who are always out here directing it. Because I'll tell you why the nurses are out here. Because they know what it means to harm a child. They know what it means to try and mend the damage that's been caused to a child. So thank you to the nurses for coming out here, and to all the health workers who are doing that brave work in Gaza as well. Thank you to you. There's more leadership coming from our nurses than there ever bloody well has been from Albanese or Penny Wong, I can tell you that. So it is critical now, though, to hear the call that we've heard from the MUA to not load arms shipments to Israel. And if the MUA press the button on that, we need to be at the wharves and the docks in solidarity with them. Because it was the MUA that stopped pig iron going off to another imperial war in the 1930s. It's the MUA that stood and stopped weapons going to prevent Indonesia becoming independent. It's the MUA so often that's been at the barricades and stood up when our governments has failed to act, and we promise to stand with them. We promise to stand with them. And finally, I'll say this to the NTEU for calling for those sanctions and boycotts. It is obscene that our universities engage in cooperative research with Israeli universities for new and novel ways to kill kids in Gaza. Let us end that. Let us end that. So, in solidarity and in hope that I know the world is better than our governments, let's make Australia stand up, let's free Palestine, and let's finally end the two-way arms trade. Thanks very much.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Sanction Israel!
Sanction Israel!
Sanction Israel!
Sanction Israel!
Thanks, comrades. David mentioned the work that goes on at universities, the collaboration with arms companies that are actually fueling this genocide. Hassan and I and a number of us here, we've marched up from UTS today. We're facing a situation where they are trying to get rid of the entire School of Public Health. Where they're trying to get rid of the school that does teacher training to bring new teachers into our system. International studies where they build connections, cooperative connections with people around the world. These sorts of obscene cuts, hundreds of our staff are facing cuts. But they are expanding They are expanding their cooperation with the likes of Thales, who actually produce the munitions that are currently raining down on Gaza. They have an entire place they call there called the UTS Vault, where they get weapons companies in to do research. We can't even be told where this so-called vault is. They've got huge amounts of capacity and resource to build weapons while they're cutting staff doing public interest, teaching and research. So as a union we say, end the research with the weapons companies, end the cooperation with Israel, and stop the cuts. Stop those cuts. And we at UTS, we've got a real champion in the parliament fighting against these cuts. Sarah Kane, who's been questioning our Vice-Chancellor, had him on the ropes up there in Parliament last week. She's a MLC with the Labor Party, and I think it's very significant that a number of Labor Party MLCs and other members came with us and marched with us on the Harbour Bridge against, Chris Minns' attempts to put those rallies down. They marched alongside us, standing for justice and standing within the unions. So thanks very much for that, Sarah, and thanks for coming to speak with us today.
Patty, and thanks to the other speakers. As was just mentioned, my name is Sarah Kane. I'm a Labor Member of Parliament, and I will not be complicit with genocide. Now, I must confess that this is not my usual milieu. I mean, it is in terms of the unions who are here. That very much feels like home. I was president of the NTEU and worked in the union movement for a number of years, and I thank the unions that are here and the unions that aren't here but continually work for social justice on this issue and all the other issues that we have to work on to make a more compassionate society. And I am so heartened to know that workers who are here today, particularly from UTS, but I can see nurses as well, who are engaged in their own fights, still have the compassion in their hearts to come out and let their voices be heard when things are going wrong in the world and saying no to what Israel is doing in Gaza right now. So I thank you for that continued effort, and know that you have so many calls on your compassion and that you are here today. The other thing I wanted to say is I must confess, I have a confession to start with. I am not an expert in the arms trade, nor am I an expert in Middle Eastern politics. But what I do know is that it is wrong what is happening in Gaza. It is wrong what is being done by the IDF. It is wrong to stop aid to children, to shoot people simply trying to get food. But it is also wrong to facilitate weapons that create this situation. I unambiguously support two-way arms embargoes, including on the components that go to making those weapons. Now, I know the difference between bullets and components that go to making an aeroplane. I know the difference, you know the difference. Sometimes that distinction is used as a bit of a crack through which to push a justification. And that justification is, well, we don't have direct bilateral relations with Israel in terms of the jets that we're assisting to make. That's not our fault. We don't have any responsibility for that. It's too far down that very complex supply chain. Now, I don't agree with that. I know you don't agree with that. But even if you did, the Australian government is required to consider a number of criteria before they grant licences for those exports. And that criteria includes taking into account humanitarian concerns and weighing them up against diplomatic and other concerns. Well, I don't know that there can be any balance at all. What could possibly balance genocide? So I won't stay for long. It's starting to rain again, and for those of us who are on the bridge, I suspect many of us, I mean, we're getting used to it. For those of us who were at the NTEU rally a couple of weeks ago, we're getting used to it. But I won't keep you out for much longer in the rain, except to say again that you being here tonight, despite the weather, despite the many other battles that you are fighting on behalf of yourself and others, it restores my hope. My hope that if enough of us keep speaking out, we will make change, we will make a difference. And I think of you out here tonight, and I think of the members of over 100 Labor branches who have passed motions with, again, unambiguously supporting sanctions, arms embargo, and condemning what is going on in Gaza and all across Palestine. So I thank you again for what you do for restoring hope, for the flag that you hold on behalf of people here and elsewhere. Thank you so much.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Thank you so much, Sarah, for your solidarity on all fronts. And I think for all of us, none of this is disconnected. The same people who want to cut our jobs in the international studies are the same people who want to keep arming Israel and keep wanting to do weapons research. We see the connections, we see you, and we turn up in solidarity. Our speaker, super proud to present to you Safa Rayyan, a proud Palestinian activist from Wollongong Friends for Palestine. Please welcome Safa.
I actually don't feel worthy speaking on the same lineup as what you've had tonight. But before I start, I just want to pay my respects to the Dharawal Nation and the Gadigal people. But Dharawal is where I live, and I cannot go anywhere without thanking them for giving me a home after my dispossession. Always was, land back, treaty now, and free Palestine. I am Safa Rayyan, and I am a proud Palestinian woman. My father comes from the town of Barbara, which is now in Ashkelon, and my mother comes from the town of Silwan, which is in East Jerusalem. And my father's family all reside in Gaza. And unfortunately, the last 2 years have been some of the hardest years of our life. But we survive, we continue, we persevere, because that's what you do. When you are facing settler colonialism, you don't sit back and die quietly, you fight. You fight for your survival, and you fight for your family's survival, which is why I'm here tonight. Tonight, I want to fight for my family's survival. And how do I fight for my family's survival? I go to Bisalloy whenever we pick it at Bisalloy. You've heard it 3 times now. Bisalloy is a company in Unanderra, also known as Wollongong. It supplies Plasan Sana with the hardened steel which goes into their armoured vehicles and Macabre tanks. Those goddamn tanks that roll into the GHF websites that are supposed to be handing out aid, that are killing Palestinians trying to get food. Malcolm Turnbull is a major shareholder, but so is David Sharma. Both scum. They are major shareholders at Bisalloy, which is supplying that hardened steel. The reason why the Illawarra is so important in the supply chain is because of what you also heard earlier, Pig Iron Bob. It was those Port Kembla dock workers that shut down the steel going to Japan. It was the Port Kembla dock workers who went hungry for months on end to save the lives of other people. It is that history that we in the Illawarra have that is keeping us strong as a community, fighting Bisalloy to stop their arms trade or their supply of steel to Plasan Sana and stop in the manufacturing of these armoured tanks that are killing my family. Dock workers have been instrumental in the fights against genocide. And at the moment, we are calling on those dock workers to tell us where are those, or which ships are transporting that steel. Where is it going? We know it's going to the US. We know that they are manufacturing those tanks in the US and then shipping them to Israel. But this is also a call to action to all of you here, that on the 21st of September at 8 p.m. at Unionderra, we will be shutting down Bisalloy again. We've shut them down 7 times, we will shut them down again, and we will keep on shutting them down. What do we want? Shut it down. We will shut Bisalloy down, because as long as Bisalloy is arming the Israeli genocide, it is complicit, and all their staff need to know what their company is doing. They need to know what the implications are for working at Bisalloy and making that steel. And before I end, I will say, free Palestine. From Gaza to Gaza, long live the Intifada. And Bisalloy is complicit in genocide. Peace.
You're supporting genocide! Bisalloy, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide! Bisalloy, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide! Thanks so much, and it's such an inspiration, the Bisalloy campaign. And we heard before MUA Secretary Paul Keating saying if they can find out what those boxes are, they will stop the box. I'm really proud my partner's a strong wharfie. Nat Wasley, she's part of the Maritime Union. We talk a lot about this. They don't know. They don't know what's in those boxes. That's the sad truth. Wharfies don't know. They aren't told what they're shipping. There is a fundamental issue of workers' rights going on at the moment, where Australia is exporting parts to be part of this genocide, and the transport workers that are taking it round from the warehouses to the airports to the ports, they don't know what they're carrying. Those workers at the ports don't know what they're carrying. We do need to continue to organise and go out deeper into the working class to get this intelligence, to actually try to find out from one workshop to the other, do we know if this is going to Israel, and build up our strength so we can deliver on Paul Keating's commitment, and we can stop the boxes, and we can shut down the arms trade that's fueling the genocide. The NTEU, we called this rally because the ACTU, they have a policy now supporting sanctions on Israel, supporting an end to the two-way arms trade. But it's up to us as rank and file workers to go out there and turn that union policy into action that can shut down the genocide. That's our responsibility. I have a statement here from our secretary, Vince Corley. He got migraine and had to go home this afternoon. He can't be here with us, but he has really supported this rally, and it's great the NTEU is calling this rally today. He says, "I'm sorry I can't be with you in person today due to illness, but I wanted to restate the National Tertiary Education Union's long-standing, clear and principled position in support of Palestinian rights, including support for boycott, divestment and sanctions. Our National Council has endorsed a complete academic boycott of Israeli universities due to their deep involvement in military development and the apparatus of occupation. When you look at the scale of what's happening, the unfettered criminality and genocide of the Israeli state, it's hard not to be overwhelmed, but we must all do what we can when we can. For the NTEU, that means acting where we have power to make change, in education and at our public universities. Earlier this week, on behalf of members, I wrote to both the Minister for Education, Jason Clare, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Penny Wong, calling for 1, targeted sanctions on Israeli institutions involved in weapons production or violations of international law. Number 2, a national audit of all Australian university connections with Israeli weapons manufacturers and military institutions, with public disclosure and immediate termination of these ties. Number 3, government support for efforts to end academic collaboration between Australian universities and Israeli institutions complicit in the occupation. And 3, withdrawal from any bilateral agreements that facilitate such collaboration, including the 2013 Memorandum of Understanding on Higher Education. These are concrete targeted actions that would begin to dismantle our sector's complicity in violence and occupation. Our members are committed to building a stronger, more unified union movement, one that will not stop until peace and liberation are won for the people of Palestine. So that's from Vince Corley. And at UTS, we have chalked up one important victory. Since 2015, our university had a memorandum of understanding with the Israel Institute of Technology. They no longer have that MOU because of our union campaign. And it's that effort, that kind of action we've got to go and take out. We will cut the ties ourselves, and we will build pressure on Anthony Albanese to cut the ties at the national level. The Defense Department, we're outside today, has massive contracts with Elbit Systems, the Israeli weapons company. The Pine Gap spy base is used for attacks on Gaza, probably used in the recent attack we saw in Qatar. Those are the kind of ties we need to cut and break that complicity. We have one final speaker tonight, comrades. Wasmia from Sydney University. The students stand with our staff, and the students are fighting very hard to cut the ties as well. Wasmia is part of Students Against War. Thank you.
Speakers, and I'd also like to acknowledge the land we're on today, the traditional owners, the Gadigal people, and the fight for Indigenous rights here is directly correlated with the fight for Indigenous rights elsewhere. We're at the Department of Defense because of its disgusting role, as Patty just mentioned, at the center of Australia's complicity in genocide. And when this genocide in Gaza and the catastrophic massacres in the West Bank and the occupied territories has escalated far beyond imaginable, and Israel's crimes are laid completely bare. As previous speakers have mentioned, the attacks on the flotilla ships twice at Tunis, the strikes on Qatar, and Albanese still continues to spout the nonsense about Hamas as a barrier to a ceasefire. Penny Wong will say that there's not going to be a Palestine to recognize soon, and then in the same breath defend Australia's making of the F-35 parts used in Israel's massacres. Albanese will pose happily with Australian-made drone, a gun, MK4, the same way Israeli commanders were in photos posing happily with the same gun, and then they cry about terrorism and then provide the means to kill the Palestinians. We have to be firm in that the violence of the oppressor cannot be equal and is not equal to the violence of the oppressed. Our solidarity should not just be with Palestinians as victims, but with Palestinians in their resistance. But our institutions and bosses will reiterate the same justification of war crimes as the people who represent Australia's national interests. Universities will make up new rules to stop student speakers for Palestine and ban the Palestinian flags hung by staff at UCID. They will hold on to their justification of Israel's crimes for justification of their own crimes in the Pacific. They will hold on to their research and exchange programs with Israeli universities like Western Sydney, making medical cannabis for the IOF, UCID sending students to HUJ campuses built on stolen Palestinian land, and sending medical students to Israel's Technological Institute, which has been historically and is foundational in killing Palestinians. But these ties can be broken and have been broken through organizing on the streets. At UCID, we were able to cut the Israel's Art Academy Bezalel, which sewed uniforms for the IOF during the genocide. And as Patty mentioned, UTS was able to cut their memorandum of with Israel's Technological Institute. This is how we get from the abstract phrase of free Palestine to actually freeing Palestine. Albanese and the bosses may hold the power to dictate policies to run the world, but it is the workers who provide the means and provide the labor that actually runs the world. this country would fall into nothing without the teachers, staff, the dock workers, the nurses and midwives and doctors. The real threat to the bosses in Albanese is when the workers realize our own power and take control of our streets. This is what makes the threat that the Italian dock workers made to protect the Freedom Flotilla so powerful. And as students, it is our job to provide support for unions and workers to take such action for Palestine too, for the Australian wharfies to not load the Israeli docks, that whatever threat may come their way, as students, we back them in the fight. We need to make Palestine such an issue across our universities and workplaces that the bosses and the government cannot escape the horrors of their own complicity. We must organize in our masses, in our unions, universities, hospitals, and ports. There is more work yet to be done, so get involved with the boycott, divestment, and sanctions at your unions. If you're a student, join Students Against War with your faculty and show up this Saturday, September 13, with your contingents to fight in solidarity with our Indigenous siblings and fight against the racist rhetoric that Albanese continues to spout of the demonization of Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims. If we want to see an end to the apartheid state of Israel, we have to push the global intifada forward. Free Palestine!
Sanctions now! Sanctions now! Sanctions now! Sanctions now! Sanctions now! Thank you everyone for coming out. We're at the end of our rally today. I want to thank all the speakers. One last a group we'd like to, who sent their support for the rally today is the New South Wales Teachers Federation, who sent their support. Yes, big woo, teachers are supporting our work here. They are busy preparing for the Sovereignty Never Ceded rally, which is going to happen on Saturday at 12 at Balmoral Park. So we support that too. We'll see you there. Free Palestine and Sovereignty Never Ceded on Gadigal land.
There you go. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free.
So it looks like they're going to do a group photo in front of the Defense Department. It's two ladies there now. There was only one before. Now they got two. But the cops have left. Well, the cops are over here. So let's guess we'll jump in and get a photo. It's starting to rain pretty heavily now. Take it from over here under the cover.